What's up guys, it's Cass from STONEMILL & Co. In today's video, I am giving you guys a step-by-step tutorial on how you can make your very own epoxy cross using the Crafted Elements cross mold. As always, before we get started, make sure you are subscribed to the Crafted Elements YouTube channel, and I will also link my channel below as well. But without further ado, let's begin. So first things first, we want to make sure our mold is clear of any dust or debris, so I am just using some painter's tape to clean up the mold. And the next step is a very important step. You want to make sure you're using an epoxy mold release before you add your epoxy. I decided to add a small piece of walnut to the bottom of the cross, so I have that measured, cut, and placed, and we are ready for our first layer of epoxy. I decided to add a white base layer, so I will be adding Mix-All white pigment to the epoxy once it is mixed up. You want to make sure that you're mixing your epoxy very well. Make sure there are no string-like striations left when you are done stirring. I went ahead and added a little bit of clear to the end of the wood. This is going to prevent any bubbles from coming up once we add our deep pour after the white is cured. Now, whenever you are using silicone molds, you do not want to use a torch to pop the bubbles, but instead a light spray of alcohol will do the trick. I waited 8 hours and now it's time for the deep pour. Once again, I'm using Mas Epoxies. Here I'm just placing my flowers and then I'm using a little bit of super glue to hold those down in place so that they don't float up once we add that deep pour. Now, here is your quick reminder that not all epoxy is created equally. They all have their different purposes. They have different mix ratios as well as different max pour depths. Make sure you are reading the directions, and as always, make sure you're wearing gloves. And since the deep pour has a longer cure time, I usually don't have to worry about popping any bubbles. Usually over time, the bubbles rise and pop themselves. But now it is time to sit back, relax, and very anxiously wait 36 hours for this to cure before we can come back and sand it down and add a top coat. So again, I am coming back 36 hours later when this is cured, and this is probably the easiest demold that I've ever done in my life, and that is because of that mold release spray. Do not forget that. Number one is it's going to give you a super easy demold, but number two, it's going to make your mold last so much longer. You're going to get so many more uses out of it, so don't forget the mold release spray. So to be sure that my top layer of epoxy adheres to the cross, I'm going to go ahead over the entire cross and sand down all the edges as well as the top and the bottom with my Mica sander. And then once it's sanded, I will go back with some alcohol and clean off the entire cross to get rid of all of the dust. And now that it is all roughed up, it's time to bring that gloss back with some tabletop epoxy. I have the cross setting up off of the table just using some small scrap pieces of wood, and then I will pour the resin all over the cross. To be sure that you end up with a nice even flow over the edges, I make sure to hit those edges before I allow the epoxy to drip over the sides. Again, this is just going to keep the edges nice and smooth. That way they don't end up looking like it does right now. So again, I'm just going to keep going over those edges to make sure that they're nice and smooth. And then we're going to go ahead and torch this. You can use your torch now that you are not using a silicone mold, but we'll torch this. I'll put some cardboard over top of it to prevent any dust from getting in, and then I'll come back in about a day. Now, I say a day, but since epoxy takes roughly 5 to 7 days to fully cure, I do suggest waiting those 5 to 7 days before you come back and sand the bottom, just to prevent getting any scratches on the top of the surface. But again, I'm going to sand the back nice and clean and get rid of all those drips. And you always want to make sure that the top surface is laying on a soft surface so that it does not scratch the top, but I'll clean this all up. And then I actually decided to add a little bit of walrus oil wood wax to the back just to make it look a little bit nicer. But that is a wrap, guys. I love how this piece turned out. Thank you so much to Crafted Elements for always having the best molds. I'm always thrilled with the quality of their molds. You guys can buy your own cross mold at craftedelements.com. Make sure you guys comment below. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. Once again, I am Cassidy from STONEMILL & Co. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. And obviously don't forget to subscribe to the Crafted Elements channel so you guys don't miss out on any future videos.